Hello musicians and welcome to the new improved Suzuki School. So we've got a new website, but it's the same address, so no need to worry, you'll still be able to find us. But it's a bit more swanky, and we're behind a members lounge payment schedule, so you have to subscribe to watch the lessons. So we've done that. I explained yesterday why we've had to do that. I've got a few teachers interested actually, so it's not going to be just me. There'll be various playlists with other teachers, which is really exciting. Whilst I can play just about anything put in front of me, except a woodwind and a brass, it doesn't leave so much, does it? But whilst I can play all of that, or all of the strings and the piano to a degree, it doesn't mean I'm excellent. And, I wouldn't be foolish enough to start viola lessons, for example. However, I do want to tell you today the difference between a viola and a cello. If you're not sure whether to start one or the other, or you're thinking which one to start. So I would say, personally, that I found the viola a bit easier than the cello, but I'm already a string player, so therefore I've already got quite a lot of knack. I know how to, I understand a good note from a bad note, which took years. It does take years to do that. The viola is quite nice because you can get, really close to it. I mean, you can get close to the cello as well, the fingerboard. But I don't know, there's something slightly different about it, just the angle. When you kind of tilt, so you can still see the music and you can still hear. I struggle with that on the cello. The music's a bit further away, and I have to kind of, unless you look sort of sideways with the cello, you're probably going to be a bit out of focus. Do you see what I mean? So yeah, that was one of the big differences. Now, the other big difference, and I'm really struggling with it, is reading the C string. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all of my songs. I'm about halfway through book 1 of Suzuki, and I'm not going to write the names of the notes. I'm going to write the fingering. I mean, that's what I do with the piano anyway. We always do that. When we start a new piece on the piano, we always do that. So, there's nothing new there, really. So yeah, really, the thing is, I read piano music, cello music, and now viola music, sort of. I mean, I sat down to play my cello, and I was playing the notes as if they were viola notes on the C clef, on the viola clef, which I thought was really interesting. I thought, oh, I'm obviously doing a bit of sight reading when I didn't realise I was doing sight reading. So your brain, I mean, it's such an amazing thing, the brain, the way that it adjusts and the way that it learns things and you don't even know you're learning it. So I was quite curious about that. I thought, wow. But what I do think you have to do really is, if you play multiple instruments, you need to practice all of them every day, not just one. And yes, you're going to have to shrink your time. Otherwise, all you'll be doing all day is playing instruments, which would be absolutely idyllic, but probably quite impractical, to be honest. So I'm using an electric viola. So I can't compare to an acoustic viola, but I do find the strings a lot softer. They're kind of, I mean, with the cello, you have to have a different touch. Everything is bigger on the cello, but the thing, you might think, oh, that must be a doddle then playing the viola. Well, it's not actually, because what you're doing with the viola is you're covering the same as 2.5 positions or 3 positions with your one hand. And the other thing I found really hard was when I'm playing the B and the C on the A string. I mean, they start with the C sharp, so you've got that full tone in between, and that was quite comfortable. And suddenly they're asking you to do the C natural, and it's called close position. And your fingers, I mean, it's just, guys, it's crazy. Your fingers have to do all this weird stuff, and it is quite uncomfortable. So that's the other thing I've noticed. Very, very uncomfortable, much more uncomfortable than the cello. But then I've been playing the cello for years, so it's I'm going to feel that. But I really do think the muscles in my fingers for the viola are going to have to do some other things. And I thought having a small hand would be really appropriate for a viola, but actually it hasn't worked out like that. You've got to do much bigger sort of stretches. With the cello, you can sort of bash around a bit, and you get a lot of sort of drum effect. At least I do when I play. This sort of bounding, robust, drummy, percussive. It's almost percussive sound when you're making contact with the strings, and I'm not finding that I'm doing that with the viola. It's like a much more gentle instrument. I guess as well, when I go to play the cello now, it's so loud, but I am practicing the viola on a silent viola. You can do it with headphones, and I mean, unfortunately, I can't possibly get an acoustic viola now. There are too many instruments in my house, so I'm just going to stick with the electric one because it's great for recording, and I'm really a recording artist. So that's something to bear in mind as well. What I'm describing to you, the differences between the cello strings and the experience of playing a cello is very different to the experience of playing a viola. But I am playing an acoustic cello more often. The electric Yamaha cello is really something that I'm going to start using more for studies and scales, so that the neighbours don't get hacked off. And also it means I can practice at night. But I did get a mute for my cello, which I love, actually. It really tones it down. It stops the booming. But you really know, it's quite incredible, the noise of a cello. And I just think, I remember my mum saying to me one day, oh, if we ever live together when she's an old lady, she'll need a different annex, because she couldn't bear my constant cello playing all day. Because it's so loud. And it does deafen people. I remember playing a little mini concert one Christmas for some elderly people, and they were screwing up their faces because they couldn't speak because I was being too loud. So I was very close to the dinner table. So that's something else to bear in mind. You can turn an electric cello and an electric viola down, but you can also get mutes. So that's been really helpful. So I'm really enjoying the viola. I'm a bit obsessed with it at the moment. I'm really, trying to accomplish quite a lot in a short space of time because I've set up the Suzuki School. And, I want to pass on knowledge. And the best way to impart knowledge is to do it in a way that you come from not knowing to knowing, because then you remember. Now with the thing is with my cello, I don't understand anymore what it was like to be learning it, because it's a distant thing. I mean, obviously you still learn every day, but and every time you play, but those rudiments of playing a string instrument are forgotten. So playing this viola has really informed me of issues. And the biggest, most desirable achievement with any string instrument is to play a smooth note in tune. And I did find that my bow, if I'm really concentrating on the music, because I'm trying to read this music, my bow starts going, it's like a wave. It's just going all over the place. And I've got no control over it because it's a very different angle than the cello, very different. But if I put my ear very close to the instrument, I can, and I'm slow and deliberate with my bow stroke, and I keep those elbows up, I'll talk about that in a minute. You will get a very pretty sound, actually. And I like that. I thought, yeah, do you know what? All I need to do for my compositions are toppers, really. I call them toppers. And they're little fiddly bits, little decorative parts on a string instrument that just, repeat the riff. So sometimes it's only 3 or 4 notes. So very little I have to do. And I thought, yeah, it does sound different to the cello. There's something more bird-like about it, which I found actually quite charming. So yeah, just a note on, pain. I mean, this stretching the fingers, and it's actually the fingers, those, between the first two and the last two on your hand, when you do that alien sign, there's a ligament there that you have to stretch to be able to play these notes. Now, if you've got big hands, I absolutely recommend, actually, if you've got big hands, go for a viola. Don't even try the violin. I mean, am I being unreasonable there? Well, big hands can be a hindrance. Big hands for a cello are great, and big hands for a piano are great. That's not to say you can't play with small hands. I've got very small hands. I've got titchy hands, actually. But that spread, that ligament that holds your middle and fourth finger together, it can hurt quite a bit when you're trying to do things on the viola. So I'm sort of breaking myself in as gently as possible. But the other thing is my arms today. And it's muscles in my arms that are surprising. I do a lot of planking and I do a lot of yoga. And the muscles that ache are sort of lower down. But these muscles are the sort of top of my shoulder at the front. And I woke up this morning, I thought, wow, they're feeling quite like I've done a complete workout. And I find that towards the end of my practice, and I try and do about, I don't clock watch, to be honest. I don't know how long I do, but I would guess about minimum 20 minutes. And you've got your arms up for that whole period. And when I first started, actually, I had to sit down and kind of hold it as in a way that gravity was supporting me. So horizontally, vertically, more, at that sort of vertical angle, just so that I could digest the notes. But I really do think that putting in the fingering, which I'm going to do today, is going to really, really help me to learn these notes. And the other thing, the trick is to not think in notes. And you don't need to say, well, this is a C and this is an E. What you need to do is, as long as you know what the one note is, the C, for example, you see that it's going up in thirds or it's going up in fourths or fifths, and you just do that rather than sit there and think, well, this is a G, so that must be a B. Do you see what I mean? That's what I'm doing, because I've come from a piano and a cello music reading history. So yeah, don't worry, I'm going to find us lots of ways that we can really embrace the viola. I'm absolutely thrilled with it. And the other thing I found was on TuneCore. Now, as a teacher, I use TuneCore. So if you book a lesson with me at the Suzuki School, we will be using TuneCore. It'll save you a few £100 a year, because it's not cheap. And it's a play-along app. And I use it on my iPad, and it has the full orchestra if you want it, and you can play along with your cello. And it really has replaced the orchestra for me. And that's one of the the things that I use when we're doing cello lessons. Now, I looked at the work for viola. A lot of Mozart, I believe I'm right in saying that Mozart played viola. And the songs are absolutely stunning. There's a viola quartet which was divine. So I'm gonna try and learn that. I'm not just sticking to Suzuki. I'm going to be a bit broader, because the thing is, Suzuki's really, really good for children, but I think adults learn in a wiser way. They don't necessarily learn faster, but they have skills from a life of adulthood. Motor skills and other skills that they can bring in. Discipline is something that I notice in adults, not all the time, but so that's really the thing is with the stuff for children, which is because it's very repetitive in Suzuki, it can bore an adult to tears, because what adults want to do is they want to play with their band, or they want to play with an orchestra or whatever. So I'm keen to create really all-rounded musicians at the Suzuki School. So we don't just stick to Suzuki. Suzuki has lots and lots of pros, but it also has a few downsides. So we'll bear that in mind. Anyway, you can book a lesson. telltellerclub.com. I'm on there. That's where Suzuki School lives, at the club. And yeah, well, hit us up. See what the new site's like.